The proscription of the Islamic movement in Nigeria has continued to generate a lot of debate. While the presidency has attempted to clarify that it's not the Shiite sect that has been proscribed, the Islamic movement of Nigeria has challenged their proscription in court, as well as a whole lot of other things. Now, the conversation that is going on is the fact that many are asking why the IMN was proscribed and not the Fulani Herdsmen, who have been known to kill as many people as over 2,000 in just 2018. Some people feel there is a bit of double standard. Is there some sort of double standard? Is there a comparison between the IMN and Fulani Herdsmen? All these we will be figuring out right here on Root Cause, and my guest in the studio is Dr. Katch Ononuju. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. First of all, what are your thoughts about the proscription of the IMN, the Islamic movement in Nigeria?
Well, it's long expected. I did not, I wasn't surprised, because what actually we were going through was a proxy war. The Sunni versus Shia crisis in the Middle East has now been brought home, because when President Buhari signed to the military alliance of the Sunnis headed by Saudi Arabia, the next was for him to come back to Nigeria to also dampen down whatever advantage the Saudis think that Iran was having here. And one main gain Iran has here is the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, which is primarily a Shia organization. The government is a Sunni-led government. The
Saudi government or Nigerian government?
The Nigerian government and the Saudi government are both Sunni government, and the Sunnis are against the Shias in the Middle East, represented by the Iran versus Saudi Arabia game. So what Buhari is doing, because he is an ally of the Sunni-led Saudi Arabian government, is to also come here to try to diminish any Iranian influence as being projected by the Islamic movement, which is primarily a Shia organization. Buhari is Sunni and Ezagzaki is Shia.
So you're trying to say that the reason the proscription occurred has nothing to do with the fact that the government has said that this is an organization that has inflicted a lot of injury on people, disturbed the peace, their protest led to the killing of a deputy police commissioner and of course a corps member who was a journalist, and so many other things. They've sacked, according to them, they've burnt houses and all of that they have done. You're trying to say that the proscription of the IMN has nothing to do with all these underlined issues that the government has listed, but a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which is being represented here.
That is what it is. Because if the Shias themselves cannot be exonerated from very bad behavior, but you cannot label them a terrorist organization. They've done nothing that's crazy. All their arrangements have been peaceful across the country. That there are Shias marching, which is within the laws of country, to protest the sustained detention of their leader, Ezagzaki. That is within the law. So if some Shias are protesting, it does not mean that the Islamic movement of Nigeria are protesting.
But they have been accused of, committing a lot of crimes, such as fomenting violence, what we saw in front of the State House, in front of the Senate a few weeks ago, and then of course just recently the death of the...
They are protesting. As for the staged killing of the police officer that actually fell, he fell from friendly fire. If you watch, he was hit from the back. So those things are not a problem. The government has been known to employ what I call violence against Nigerians. The sustained use of the Mieti Allah to gain land itself is violence. The government has not done anything like speaking against the Mieti Allah's use of ethnic cleansing to gain land. As I'm talking to you right now, 58 villages are cleansed in Riyom, in Barkin Ladi, and Jos South local government. Instead of putting back those landowners back to their homes, they are still kept in IDP camp while the government wants to turn their land into Luga.
You did say that you believe that the Deputy Police Commissioner was killed by friendly fire.
Of course.
I mean, of course, I had a former FCT Commissioner of Police who said they have evidence that that was not the case, that he was actually killed by protesters, this IMN protesters, on that day. But you seem to be one of the proponents.
This is not the first time. When they were marching from Maraba into town, it was government forces that stood at the cantonment and shot into the crowd. When they were marching also in Buhari, it was government forces with guns they were shooting. In all the occasions, it's been government forces shooting. So how suddenly now would you not say Shi'ites are shooting? We've not seen them shoot before. When did they start shooting? This, I'm giving you 3 different occasions. When the crisis happened along the Buhari road, it was government forces shooting at them. When they were coming from Maraba into Abuja, they got to the Abuja, the cantonment there. It was government forces shooting at the Shiites. When this also occurred, the policeman was shot from the back. That's why all of us who saw it believe this was friendly fire. And I believe that friendly fire was probably staged in order to now label these people a terrorist organization.
All right, please.
Which is not true. But what I'm trying to tell you is, we've been able to accommodate the Shias and even the Sunnis and their intolerance of other members of society. Sometimes they block road during Friday prayers.
Exactly.
These things are not in line with our laws, but the rest of the country has allowed that to calm down so that we can politely. Only people like Lagos say you can't block road. But what about the other places? So the Sunnis are just as guilty as the Shia. Don't forget, Boko Haram are Sunnis. ISIS are Sunni. The Fulani militia are Sunnis. So what is it that the Shias have done that is commensurate in comparison to what the Fulani militia
and that is why I wanted to ask you why you think that IMN was proscribed and not Fulani Herdsmen, like a lot of people have, continued to say that they have fomented a lot of violence. And of course, in 2014, the World Terror Index noted them as the 4th most, dangerous terrorist group. So why do you think in Nigeria they are not being seen, they've not been proscribed, but IMN that has consistently protested the detention of their leader Al-Zakzaki has been proscribed?
Because the Fulani Herdsmen are, like the Buhari's administration, Sunni organizations. This is the reason. The Shia are Shiites. And you have the Saudi Arabia versus Iran crisis being brought to Nigeria, and the Shias are now engaged in Nigeria.
What will this administration gain by supporting the Saudi Arabian version of this supposed war that you are talking about?
Well, the Sunnis think that the Shias are a nuisance. And so, if the Sunnis in the Arabian Peninsula could get all their allies to go against Iran, there's nothing wrong with also getting their allies in Nigeria to also go against Iranian interests. And don't forget, the Iranians have the other day said, release the man to us, let us treat him So you can see how the proxy game is now becoming open.
Some people say the reason that the Nigerian government doesn't want to give al-Zakzaky to Iran is because when he goes to Iran, he could be further empowered, and he could also form a source of a threat to Nigeria, even though he would be in Iran.
Al-Zakzaky today is better for us than removing him, and then a vacuum will stay, and then some crazy person you don't know could come in to fill that void, and that could be some very dangerous thing. We don't want that. The devil you know is better, you deal with that devil, is better, you control that devil, than the one you don't know. Because if you remove al-Zakzaky as leader, who might replace him could be some crazy person who is very angry, who urges the followership to actually revenge. This is how we mishandled that crisis, and then police officers shot rank and file, shot Muhammad Muhammad in Borno, and then before you know it, those who now wanted to capitalize in the Kanuris not agreeing to share power, then engineered the boys who used to work with Ali Modu Sharif, and you have the Boko Haram. It has not stopped. So whether you call it the Boko Haram, you call it Fulani bandits, you call it Fulani militia or Fulani Herdsmen, it's the same terrorist crisis engineered by the Sunnis. The Sunnis have done far more danger to Nigeria's corporate existence than the Shias have done. So I really don't understand why the Sunni organizations, you had just 2 days ago, the leaders of the Southeast, South-South, Southwest, and the Middle Belt refused to honor the meetings called by General Abdul Salami, because Abdul Salami also invited the Miyetti Allah. For me, the Miyetti Allah are suffering from an identity crisis. They don't know if they will stay as a trade organization, which is the Magban, or they will stay as the Miyetti Allah, who they want to play as a cultural organization for all the Fulanis, or they want to remain as the headsmen, bandits, and Fulani militia supporters, as they have consistently spoken in public to actually support these killings. Get this. When I said this last week at a lecture, some people say, are you supporting these people? I said, no. If today it is the shares that happens, yesterday it was IPOB, tomorrow it could also be the OPC. And then if we now say we keep quiet, tomorrow is the OPC. Next tomorrow, it could be the Bayelsa people. They could even now try to ban Ohaneze or even ban Afenifere. This is the way these things happen. Whoever intolerant government do not like, they can always go to any judge that agrees with them 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening on a Friday and get court papers. This one was an ex parte. So for me, they can always get several ex parte tomorrow at Loyin Ohaneze, tomorrow at Loyin Afenifere, tomorrow at Loyin the Middle Belt Congress, tomorrow at Loyin the Pandef. Nothing is impossible for an intolerant government.
A big thank you to you, Dr. Katch and Ononuju, for sharing your thoughts with us on this very thought-provoking subject. Please go to the comment section of this video and let us hear your thoughts on all that has been discussed. Interesting, isn't it? You've been watching Root Cause right here on Rootstv Nigeria. My name is Gloria Oji Emote.